Greetings and welcome back to Room 303 and our Chats with Emily, as we are calling our readings through all of the poems of the Johnson edition of Emily Dickinson's poetry. We turned out a poem number 15, The Guest is Gold and Crimson. This is a riddle poem. Emily herself will call it a navy sunset in a letter she wrote to Sue. But the reason we call it a riddle poem, we see a number of these for Emily, is she loves to play around with what is, in our study of Shakespeare, the vague antecedent. In other words, we know that the writer is referring to something, we're just not exactly sure what, and we kind of have to figure it out or even guess at it. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following our stuff at learnstrong.net, down that left-hand side, Chats with Emily, our playlist. I'm hopeful that you as well have already been exposed to our introductory set of comments, and then we just finished with poem number 14, One Sister Have I in Her House. Now, the background information here is kind of interesting. Again, Emily herself calling this the Navy Sunset in a copy of it when she sent it to Sue. And of course, the idea here is going to be that as the sun sets, we got all kinds of different kinds of colors that are being played with. Emily's going to describe a similar sunset in prose in a letter 189. Of the same year to Mr. and Miss Samuel Bowles. She says, quote, "Though it's almost 9 o'clock, the skies are gay and yellow, and there's a purple craft or so in which a friend could sail," end quote. Now, some scholars have pointed out that this whole thing of the lap wing at the conclusion of this may have something to do with Much Ado About Nothing, Act 3, Scene 1, where heroes will remark about Beatrice, quote, "For look where Beatrice like a lapwing runs close by the ground to hear our confidence," end quote. It is true, and scholars have pointed this out, that one of the most influential writers for Emily was in fact Shakespeare. Let's just enjoy the poem. By the way, her love of the word guest is ubiquitous throughout her poetry, so we'll see it here. "The guest is gold and crimson, an opal guest and gray. Of ermine is his doublet, of capuchon gay. He reaches town at nightfall, he stops at every door. Who looks for him at morning, I pray him to explore the lark's pure territory, or the lapwing's shore." Notice again the exclamation point at the conclusion of the reading. Now, you'll remember the word guest being used in that very early poem, Awake Ye Muses, whose guests are humble leaves. You'll remember this one, right? Notice, sunset is gold, crimson, her love of colors, and the words that she uses, opal, gray, ermine, all of this, and notice we're back to garments again, with doublet, with capuchon, the hat, right? Gay here. That is to say, gay versus gray. It's wonderful the way she plays with the language. Finally, of course, the sunset will reach town at nightfall, stop at every door. Who looks for him at morning, I pray him to explore. Now, what exactly is it that she's talking about if you didn't know she was talking about the sunset? Well, some have argued you could read this almost like maybe there's some idea that there's a visiting spirit or something like that. Of course, she's talking about the cycle of the day, right? And again, we're back to cycles. If you're looking for him, explore the lark's pure territory, the sky, right, or the lapwing shore. In other words, don't worry, don't be too saddened. No matter what sunset, we're always going to have sunrise again. That idea of the cyclical power of nature. And in some ways, that's really the 2A. The cycles of nature, the mystery of nature, the sunset is in some ways a beautiful mystery for us. At 2B, we mentioned this as a riddle poem. Sunset's never actually said. You infer it through the reading of the poem. At 3A, Whiskers made a fine point of this in his biography, that actually she will come back to this idea. He makes the observation that there's little substance in all of this gorgeousness, right? It's kind of an empty combination, he calls it, of words. However, this idea haunted her mind until it becomes a stanza in poem number 73. Who never climbed the weary league can such a foot explore the purple territories on Pizarro's shore. And this idea that she's changing from her earlier to her later manner in development of thought, more in clarification of artistry, a stripping off of loose extraneous material until only the essential remained, end quote. And we're certainly going to see this as we move, for example, to poem 73. The way in which Emily will take an idea, play with the idea, but then begin to strip away until we just get this pristine presentation of the idea. So follow the way she plays with the idea of cycles, seasons, of course, the notion of sunrise versus sunset and all of that. And then finally, to finish at 3b, we talked about this when we did Aristotle's Poetics. You can see our full lectures at learnstrong.net. What's the difference between you and, for example, your dog or your cat? Well, Aristotle argues in Poetics, both you and your dog can look at the sunset, but only one of you can appreciate it. And that act of appreciation is what makes us not just mammalian, mammals, but human or humane. And it's that ability to enjoy art that challenges us to do so. And if Emily's doing anything for us, I'm hopeful that it's challenging us to think about the way she plays games with language. For example, what is or when was your favorite sunset? Do you have one in mind that for you was the most majestic sunset that you ever saw? And does it work with this poem, The Beauty of Crimson? Thank you.